actually wanted to speak to Kirsten because I was speaking to her during the lunch programme. And as far as local authorities are concerned, and with our funding disappearing daily, it would be working, ensuring that our young people in particular didn't have the mental health problems that they've got today. And it seems to me that part of the work that Kirsten is doing, if we could develop that across so that it's just as bad in rural areas as it is in the towns. What the research that Kirsten is doing would go across. And I would think that perhaps we need to put more of that into our management plans, is to how we manage people's mental health, and young people in particular, because if you cure it at that age, you cure it for life.
I think that's a really good point, and there is a lot of frightening literature around at the moment about young people's disconnect with nature, as well as the rise in mental health problems in young people. And I think that nature is a very cheap way actually of doing it. If we can provide the right kind of environments for people that are going to benefit their well-being, and actually coincidentally they benefit nature's well-being as well, because the type of environments that benefit people's well-being are biodiverse ones and ones with mixed habitat. So that's good for nature, good for humans. And if we can do that and make sure we prioritise those kind of spaces in urban and rural settings, then it could be a very cheap way of improving people's well-being and reducing those health inequalities.
Just add, I don't know how it's working in England, but whether we can develop the whole field of social prescribing. And I know there's a lot of experimental work in terms of working with mental health and other issues in nature. There are certain technical barriers, largely within the computer system of the NHS, as far as I can tell, about why it doesn't happen naturally. But it would be very easy and very cheap, and a very small amount of the NHS budget would go a long way in the things we're interested in.
Yeah, if I could just add, one thing I forgot to mention is that I'm very heavily involved in school visits for school children, bringing them out onto farm. And I worked with our Blackdown Hills group about 8 years ago, and we brought about 1,000 children out onto the farm, primary school children. And we very much took them through growing a crop of wheat from seed through to harvesting. And then, thanks largely to the funding from LEADER, we actually got a field kitchen on site, and we fed 1,000 children. They prepared it, the children, with some chefs, I'll add. They prepared the meal and sat down and ate it. And it was fantastic to see the expressions on these children's faces, you know, getting them out into the country. The teachers often feed back to me, it's a different learning medium. They notice children they struggle with in class. When they bring them out into a different environment, they really come alive. So yeah, I'm really passionate that we bring people more out into the country.
Thank you. Yes. Do you want a mic? No.
Charles Hassey from Children's Conservation Board. Another question for Kirsten. I noticed one of the slides, which is sort of triangular, you had bottom threats. And I'm just wondering how, without putting people off going into nature, you can perhaps deliver the message of respect for nature. Nature is powerful. I mean, if you're perhaps doing a Duke of Edinburgh award or scouting or something, you will discover, you know, it's wet and it's windy and it's slippery, and part of the things I think we have lost is actually respect for, you know, all, yes.
It's a really good point. I'm not quite sure how to respond to that, because there's a lot of researchers who are developing interventions to try and reduce the sense of threat that people have about going into the natural environments. And there are whole groups of society that won't engage with nature because they see it as a threatening place that's to be feared, and then they're worried about antisocial behaviour and encountering that sort of thing when they go away from the home. In particular, the MENI data from Natural England has shown that adults from ethnic minorities are afraid to go outdoors. So it's actually something we're trying to reduce people's fears of. But it is a very good point that, of course, there are threats in our environment, not so much in the UK perhaps as other countries, but yeah, how do you instill that respect? I don't know.
What's the culture of health and safety in risk assessments and insurance and all that.
Part of the word respect as well, I think it would be good if we could, one thing that as Environment Chairman is in my portfolio is waste and fly tipping, which is an issue with us, and it seems to be an issue across the whole country. And we've got to get, somehow we've got to get people to respect the countryside. It's not a place that they can use as a dumping ground. Because, you know, we work hard, all of us in this room, work hard to improve the environment. And it's ruined in a matter of minutes by someone who comes along, chucks the fridge out their car, or what's happening more and increasing now is you get large lorry, commercial, articulated lorry loads of waste tipped up in the countryside. So if we can install, I'd love to think, if we could install it in people, you know, that it isn't a dumping ground. They've got to play their part as well. They take their waste to the recycling centre, wherever, but they don't dump it in the country, or it won't be there.
I think also this starts at the beginning with education, does it not? And our children have become completely divorced, largely because of the curriculum that was put in front of them. As Marcus said, farms are an amazing learning place. There are so many facets. If we could get primary school children as a matter of course onto farms as part of their curriculum, I think they would help their perception of the countryside. Questions?
Yeah. Chris, can I pick up on your throwaway comment just before the question, which is, it gets me very angry, to be honest, and I think I'd like to ask a question of Mark. How can we as a body, or how as a national body, try and actually sort out this payment scheme? You started off your presentation about the needs of having a system which actually was simplified. And I cannot believe we've been talking about this for 5 years to actually get it done. And if you're clearly putting on pressure, I think what would you like us to do here as an AOMB, and where should we be putting that pressure point? Is it on our MPs? Is it on the Secretary of State? You tell me.
Well, I think I'd say at all those levels. Certainly, if you start locally within your own regions, use your local MPs. Start with those. If you can get them on side, they can create a lot of clout to put pressure. And then nationally, I'm sure you speak to government. Go in and speak to government and try and speak to George Eustace or Michael Gove and put the pressure on him. You know, we're up for the challenge. As I've said, you know, we'll change, but we've got to be paid, and the system's got to be right. You know, I'm constantly told by the staff at the NFU that there's a huge IT issue. It's one of the biggest issues. The other issue is resource. There isn't enough Natural England. You know, they're having a huge turmoil. They haven't got enough staff. So if they want us to change, they've got to put these bits right now. So if you can get into government at all levels and lobby for the same things, that will really help. It'll improve our industry, but it'll improve the environment, because you'll get people buy into it. I speak to farmers all the time, and I'm sure all of you do, who say they don't want to get involved in agri-environment schemes at the moment. Why should I? What's the point? I'm not going to get paid, and I'm going to get someone come around with a clipboard and inspect me. There's got to be a better way of doing that. So if you can, so yeah, lobby at all levels, not just at the top, but all levels all the way, and the same message. Spend a bit of time making sure the message is the same all the way, because we've noticed that as well. If the message isn't the same, feeding at all different levels, they'll pick holes in you. So make sure key message is make it simple, and ultimately make your system so that it delivers, i.e. that your payments come out the bottom end. Those are the key messages.
Can I just come in on that? I mean, I think assuming we're out of cap down the line, then the system needs to look nothing like the system we currently have. The Health and Harmony mentions the idea around landscape scale being the primary driver. That's an opportunity to actually have a system that works the opposite way around to the way we do it now. If we don't ask for that, though, we'll get the landscape scale version of the existing scheme where, you know, you've got 20 tick boxes to pick from of things you're going to offer. We need to break that. We need long-term contracts based on what people want to offer, and preferably measuring outcomes as well as inputs. And that would, I think, completely transform the nature of the whole beast at the moment, because it's this terribly defined, controlled and poorly managed, heavily audited, input-based system. And I don't think that serves any of us any good,
No.
to be honest. But it does mean that we need to be careful about the language. Because often we say we want to keep it as it is, don't we? Or we want to keep I think we actually want something very different. But that's always a challenging discussion to have.
I think another side of the poor payment system at the moment is that people who've been in stewardship for a long time have put a lot into the landscape, and government have funded that. Now, what is happening now is that those people are pulling out. All that money is wasted. So I think we as a group of protected landscapes actually really need to help the farmers here and put some pressure on. It's a really serious problem. Another question, please. Yes, Sylvia.
I just wanted to come back on that. I'm on the Conservation Board of Ashdown Forest. We have a £10 million scheme, which is a Natural England scheme, and we've got a 10-year management plan. And our biggest problem is that we do not get the funding, and it throws the whole of the programme out. And we've had such worrying times. It's not just farmers, it's across the board, and it really does need sorting.
Thank you. Another question. Yes, or Merrick.
Can I just make a couple of comments? I mean, the first one is I went to see Andrew Sells, the chairman of Natural England, 2 years ago because of farmers complaining and because of Natural England staff complaining but not being felt able enough to go up to the top. Andrew Sells said he has raised it with the Secretary of State, and would I do it independently outside because he's getting nowhere. So Natural England is really, really worried about the failure of the RPA. The RPA are far too powerful. So my second point, the point that Matthew made about a contract. Now, a contract is two-way. And as soon as you penalise the RPA for failing to deliver, they'll deliver. So actually, the contract is going to be the solution. Long-term, non-competitive, on the basis that farmers are able to make profits, but declared profits. That's really important in terms of the delivery of the public goods. So I think there is a system, but we're going to have to be strong about it, because the powers in the Treasury, I'm afraid, really see no need for investing in farming, no need for investing in agri-environment, and that would be disastrous if we left that to prevail in government. So we really have got to hit the government hard on this point.
Thank you. Any more questions? Alan.
Do I need a mic?
Coming over.
Just continuing that last line of conversation, the regulatory review that's now underway, the Stacey review, I mean, that's presumably the other body that we need to be inputting to. And it does seem that the mood there is that there's a recognition that a more holistic system is required, and with different governments arrangements. Can I just throw out for discussion? One of the things that's occurred to me in listening to the conversation today, OMBs do fantastic work within the 18% of England that are OMBs, but there's another 80% outside, and I'm as concerned with those too. Now, you talked about extending beyond your boundaries and so on. The other institution that the government has created in the last, I don't know how many years, 5 years, are nature partnerships. And I think there's an awful lot of us sit around in nature partnerships wondering why we're there. Maybe because there's not so much white space out there, does anybody in the room think that they've got a role, and is this part of the institutional structure that can be helpful?
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have to run the short. I have to run the short straw on this one. Yeah, I agree, and I've picked up the same. I've got farmers who sit on them and they wonder why they are on them. To make it work, I suppose it'd take it back to, and I talked about tying urban and rural somehow. Urban is where by and large a lot of the income is, maybe that's a role that the local nature partnerships can get involved in. How can they bring some of that income, revenue, that's very much in the urban area, out? Can they be used as a body there, perhaps? I'm really posing it to you. Looking at things slightly differently. Like I said, the Exeter analogy, people are moving in. Maybe that's a role for the LMPs. Maybe instead of trying to just literally draw money to themselves, maybe they should go into the urban areas and work with the labs, for example. Maybe that might be something to think about. It's not really an answer, I'm sorry.
We never did them in Wales. I have a college friend who runs one, and I think she's asking exactly the same questions about what are we here for. Was it the Cameron thing?
Yes, because they were the
Part
sort
of
of
localism, wasn't
the
it?
environmental dimension of the LEPs, which
Yeah.
are entirely economic.
Yeah.
And so this was then to ensure sustainable development, that we're taking care of the environment. The trouble is they've got no resource. But I mean, we're searching for an institutional framework that covers the territory. Because plainly the institutional framework we currently have isn't working.
And, well, I mean, one of the things you could be looking for is what goes in the UK Environment Act in respect of England, because I mean, we've been fortunate in Wales that we've been able to legislate recently for modern joined-up stuff, and the English legislation is pretty short, actually. Very ancient, very separated. If we're serious about the joining up, then we need to do a bit of that as well.
I don't have the expertise in this area.
Chris?
I don't know if you can hear me, but just in terms of local nature partnerships, as so frequently happens, the government wants a quid's worth of delivery for a penny's worth of input. Yeah. And some of them are doing really well. Our local nature partnership in Northern Upland Chain's doing interesting stuff around having created a results-based agro-environment scheme pilot. It's working really closely with farmers, that's locally targeted, that the criteria are locally developed. People are getting paid, but it's very resource intensive. If you want to get that kind of locally responsive, locally targeted scheme right, you want to roll it out across the country, you're really going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to start coming back to Alan's idea of a percentage of GDP. Some of the other LMPs, Devon I know are doing some really good stuff, the North East LMP is doing some good stuff, but it's mixed because they are simply not resourced. And sometimes we have to say it isn't just about working smarter or harder, it is about just having something to oil the wheels and making those things happen more effectively.
One of the opportunities, if we are rethinking the schemes, is to support that local capacity across a range of organisations. It can be the Wildlife Trust, it can be whoever's active and has something to bring to the table. So you've got those sort of trusted intermediaries or people with particular expertise that can help to capitalise some of that work.
People do work, it doesn't do itself.
No, absolutely. But most of that money has gone into consultancy or other things that haven't been local, haven't really reflected that. I think if we can fund that more bottom-up infrastructure as part of that move, that would be fantastic.
Sorry, I won't extend this, but we have obviously put forward a proposition to cover the rest of the country, because if you use the model that A&Bs have, A&B joint committees are set up under the Local Government Act. There's a perfectly good facility to set up joint advisory committees. If DEFRA are prepared to act in a way that is locally accountable and deliver their schemes locally outside of the protected landscapes. So, for example, you use a conglomerate of the character areas, which gives you a good landscape scale, defined by soil and microclimate and topography. Accepting that if you made that framework, made that announcement, I think the voluntary sector and the private sector and the public sector would come in on that, and they would put their own resources in if they were able to have a say about how public money was spent in supporting the farming industry, in delivering both the business of farming and the public goods associated. So there is a strategy. If anybody wants to know more about it, I'm very happy to email them.
Thank you very much. Any comments on that?
I think my only caveat would be careful not to change the dynamic in some of that. So if you've institutionalised it, it becomes something potentially a little bit more distant from the bottom up. So if that had emerged from the discussion locally, that it would be useful to have a board, I'd be happy than having a board first and then having the discussion locally.
That was the emphasis of it. And the emphasis actually to say for DEFRA, make the offer, and then see if there's the impetus and local interest to work collaboratively like that. Don't make it a statutory provision.
Good.
If there are no more questions, we've actually caught up a bit on time. Anybody else?
One more.
Okay, far away.
I was simply going to say, with regard to local nature partnerships, I sat on the LEP as Baroness Scott's deputy on the LEP and as the LEP representative on the nature partnership. And to be absolutely honest, LEP set up DCLG. DEFRA said, we want one of them two Bs, but they did not provide any core funding whatsoever, which the LEPs did have for the first years. And the council supported it for a couple of years, but they, what for? It wasn't achieving anything, and it wasn't getting any core funding. It was just a, we want one of them, please, in my honest opinion.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing else, I'd like to thank the three speakers very much indeed on your behalf, and we'll bring the programme marginally forward for the day. So thank you very much.